I was seconds away from marrying a man I didn't love until the best man stood up and said two words that changed everything. She's mine. Now, I'm not walking down the aisle. I'm running straight into the arms of a billionaire Don who never forgot how to break me. Chapter 1: The Wrong Groom. Bianca Hart stood in front of the full-length mirror, her breath catching at the sight of the ivory lace gown draped over her curves. She could barely recognize the woman staring back at her. Today was supposed to be perfect. Instead, a familiar knot twisted in her gut. She fingered the delicate train and felt a tremor, not from excitement, but from unearthed memory. Flashback. 2 years ago, a secluded poolside villa in Santorini, salt air tangled with the lingering hum of cicadas, music spilled from open windows, muffled laughter drifting through moonlit gardens. She'd been 21, carefree and reckless. He'd appeared on the terrace, Luca Maddox, draped in tailored linen, his dark curls brushed back to reveal smoldering amber eyes. It had been timed and planned on his part, fiery and impulsive on hers. One night, no names, no memories beyond the next morning's sun-kissed sheets and the weight of his hand grazing her wrist. No goodbyes, no resolution, and the memory had stayed with her, vivid, sensual, heartbreakingly incomplete. Now, 2 years later, she was seconds away from stepping toward a future she'd spent a lifetime preparing for. She took a shaky inhale, letting her eyes drift to the silver-framed photograph tucked into a corner of the vanity. A picture of her and her fiancé, Nathaniel Drake, arms intertwined at the engagement party. He was perfect, handsome, dependable, and much loved by her Vermont-bound family. Everything she was supposed to want. But the look in her eyes in that photo, she recognized the emptiness, because they lacked him. She slipped on the blush satin heels her mother had insisted on and sat at the vanity while the stylist brushed loose waves into her hair. She plastered a bright smile on her face as she caught her reflection, trying to picture who she was today. Not the scared little girl who'd begged for approval, nor the reckless college graduate, but the composed woman about to marry a man she should have loved. The stylist leaned in to drape a pearl-studded veil over her shoulders. "Stunning," she whispered. Bianca forced another smile. "Thank you," she said, voice tight. She blinked back stinging tears. "Let's add a few more curls, please." Anything to stop her from unraveling. Downstairs, the chapel waited. Candlelight flickered against alabaster walls. Ivory roses lined the aisle. Guests whispered behind brass frames while they waited for the moment that would define her life forever. She took a final breath and nodded at her bridesmaids. At the doors, she stepped through. All at once, she was swamped by light, by expectation. A hush fell. Frank Matterson, the officiant, cleared his throat. Her father's face appeared at the end of the aisle, pride and relief shining in his eyes, and there he was, Luca Maddox. All manufactured calm shattered. She froze. He was every inch the prize. Tailored tuxedo, silk bow tie, silver cufflinks shaped like wolves' signature. His broad shoulders filled the best man's stand. His posture stiff. His gaze locked on her with something that felt like regret mixed with something darker. Want. She couldn't breathe. Every nerve lit up to the memory hidden beneath the surface. He hadn't been invited. She'd never sent the invite. But of course he'd come. He took a half step forward, lips clamped shut, and glanced toward the groom. Nathaniel stood tall, but his confidence faltered at the sight of Luca. The brothers hadn't spoken in months. Tension vibrated around them. Undeniable? Bianca's cheeks cooled. The knot in her gut tightened. Frank cleared his throat louder. "We're here to celebrate the union of Bianca and Nathaniel." The words rattled over her head. She tried to focus. She dreamed of this moment. White roses, a pastor, a future with him. But she already felt something unraveling. The breaths came out in shallow waves. She pictured the villa in Santorini, Luca's voice low against her ear, the afterglow of sunrise warming her skin. Her body trembled, not because of nerves, but because of memory. Molten, alive. By the time she reached the first third of the aisle, the spotlights of camera flashes were bouncing their way through the pews. Family, friends, strangers. Each shutter click a reminder that this was the moment she'd rehearsed 1,000 times. Luca's amber gaze followed her like a hunter's stare. She swallowed, but her throat burned. Each step, a surrender to the want she'd buried for 2 impossible years. "May I have the rings?" Frank's gentle voice brought her back. The best man stepped forward to take the velvet cushion and stop the world. Luca flicked the cushion into the air and caught it with magnetic ease. The audience bristled. Nathaniel's jaw clenched, but he didn't speak. Bianca stood before the altar. Nathaniel offered his hand. She recognized the warmth in his eyes, the love in them, the promise, but it didn't translate into her body. She felt empty. She felt lost. Frank continued the ritual, exchange of vows, ring slipping onto her finger, cheers pressed in, Nathaniel leaned in, Bianca pressed her lips to his cheek. Then she felt it, the shift in the room. Shutter clicks stopped, the chatter hushed, the air thickened. She saw movement in her peripheral. Luca rose, a slow, deliberate motion that felt like an avalanche, heart pounding, breath stuck. The silence felt surgical. "I object." The 3 words echoed like thunder, unmistakable, shocking, and electric. Gasps rippled. Nathaniel froze. Frank's face turned crimson. Guests leaned forward. Bianca's breath hitched. "I can't let her go." Each word carved into her mind. A million interruptions, they became deafening. The chapel seemed to tilt. The guests rose. Phones snapped into view. Sirens of gossip were already igniting outside. Florida-born whispers pooled in the air. She stared at Luca, the one she'd never been able to forget. His voice, low and steady, carried a clear intent. The defied weight of the chapel fell away, leaving only Luca's amber eyes blazing with something fierce and pure. They locked. Bianca's heart rattled inside her chest, begging her to run, but she couldn't. Every breath she took was the breath of unresolved passion. Finally, she found her voice. It came out shaken, fragmented. "Luca?" She tried to pull him back, though for what she couldn't say. But it was too late. He'd turned back toward the guests and repeated harsher, "I object." The sound of hearts breaking echoed across every pew that morning, and somewhere inside her, something cracked. The life she was trying to step into was undone. Chapter 2. Runaway Bride. The silence after Luca's declaration was so sharp it could have sliced skin. Bianca stood frozen at the altar, lips parted, heart racing. Her veil trembled against her bare shoulders as 100 eyes pinned her in place. Her fiancé, Nathaniel, stiffened beside her, his fingers still curled midair, waiting for a hand she could no longer offer. The officiant stammered, I'm sorry, Mr. Maddox, this is highly inappropriate." "I'm not letting her marry him." Luca's voice was calm, but threaded with danger. Nathaniel spun toward his brother, fury igniting in his face. "What the hell are you doing?" Luca didn't blink. "Fixing a mistake." Whispers erupted across the chapel like wildfire. Bianca's mother stood from the front pew, face pale with horror. Her father reached to steady her, but Bianca couldn't breathe. Her body betrayed her, heat coiling low in her belly, that same familiar tremble returning as Luca's golden brown eyes found hers. Not just possessive, aching, like he hadn't slept since the last time he touched her, like this had all been for her. She turned her face away. No, she would not be the girl who crumbled just because he finally decided to show up. She stepped back from the altar. 1 step. Then 2. Nathaniel reached for her. "Bianca, don't." Her voice was a whisper, barely audible. "I'm sorry." And then she ran. She bolted through the chapel doors, satin heels clacking across marble floors, breath coming in sharp gasps. The lace of her gown tore on a brass hinge as she shoved through the main doors, breaking into the afternoon sun like a woman escaping a nightmare. A car. She needed a car. Her bridal party yelled behind her, but their voices blurred. Paparazzi began to swarm from the gates, flashing cameras exploding as she ran down the front steps like some manic princess fleeing a cursed crown. A valet spotted her. "Miss Hart? Ma'am, your driver is?" "I need the car." "Now!" He threw her the keys. She didn't even wait for him to open the door. The satin gown ripped again as she slid into the front seat of her fiancé's Rolls-Royce and gunned it down the drive. The whole wedding, her entire life, vanished in the rearview. 20 minutes later, she parked outside a waterfront park, engine off, lungs burning. She slumped over the steering wheel, veil slipping down her arm. She yanked it off and hurled it into the passenger seat. Tears welled, but still didn't fall. She couldn't cry. Not yet, because if she started, she wasn't sure she'd ever stop. Why now, Luca? Why come back after 2 years? She stared blankly ahead. The ocean stretched before her, glittering beneath the sun, so vast and untouchable. Just like the life she'd built to keep herself from craving him. A tap at her window. She jolted. Her hand flew to the lock, but then she saw him. Luca. towering, shadowed, controlled. He motioned for her to roll down the window. She didn't. He stepped back, giving her space. She opened the door slowly and stepped out, the torn hem of her gown brushing the sidewalk like a ghost. She didn't speak. Neither did he. They stood in silence, wind tangling her hair across her face. He reached out, gently brushing it back. The intimacy of the gesture shattered her resolve. Her voice cracked. "Why did you do that?" His jaw flexed. "Because I couldn't let you marry a man who doesn't set you on fire." She laughed, bitter and broken. "And you do?" His gaze was molten. "You know I do." Her heart clenched. "You had your chance. Years ago. You disappeared. No note, no goodbye. Just gone. I was protecting you." She stepped back, furious now. "Don't give me that noble alpha crap. You left me to wonder if I was just another notch in your silk sheets." He flinched, visibly. "It was more than that." She crossed her arms. "You had 2 years. Why now?" He stared at the ground, jaw ticking. "Because it took me 2 years to build the empire they said I'd never control. Because I was finally ready to face your father. Because seeing your name on a wedding invite made me feel like I was going to die." Her chest tightened. She tried to say something. Failed. Then his voice dropped, darker now. "I loved you, Bianca. I still love you." She shook her head. "You don't get to say that." "I just did, and then God help her." He stepped closer. His scent, that maddening cologne of cedar and leather and old money, wrapped around her like a net. He tilted her chin up with 2 fingers. Her body betrayed her. Lips parted, breath stuttered, and before she could say no, before she could even think, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming. A kiss that reeked of regret, hunger, and rage. His hands buried in her curls, his body pressing against hers until the world spun. When he finally pulled back, her cheeks were flushed, her soul wrecked. He looked like a man at war with himself, but his voice was calm. "You don't belong in a white picket life, Bianca. You belong in mine." She slapped him. Not hard, but enough. His cheek turned, but he didn't flinch. He smiled. "You always did like things rough," she gasped. "You're insane." "No, I'm in love." She stared at him, breathless, broken, and suddenly very, very unsure of everything she'd ever wanted. He backed away slowly. "I'll give you a day to figure it out, but after that," he paused, eyes smoldering, "I'm not asking. I'm taking you back." And then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, barefoot, ruined, and completely unsure which man had just broken her heart, because maybe it wasn't the one she left at the altar. Was confident, dangerous, his eyes never left hers. "I know what you're doing," she whispered. "Enlighten me." "You're trying to break me," he tilted his head. "No, Bianca, I'm trying to remind you who you are when you're not pretending to be the good girl." Her lip trembled. He stopped in front of her, eyes blazing. "You're not safe. You never were. You like danger. You like me, even now, especially now." "You left me?" "I came back. You ruined everything. I fixed everything." She slapped him again, harder this time, but he caught her wrist midair. He yanked her forward, chest to chest, nose to nose. "You don't get to hit me and run," he growled. "You came here. You walked into my home. You knew exactly what would happen the second you stepped off that elevator." Her breath hitched. He leaned in, voice gravel. "You want me to prove you're mine?" Her heart thundered. "I dare you." He took her mouth in a kiss that seared every nerve. Hot, brutal, possessive. His hands slid into her hair, tugging her head back as his tongue invaded with feral control. She moaned against his lips, clutching his shoulders for balance. He pulled back only to tear the veil from her hair, letting it fall to the ground like a defeated flag. "You wore white for him?" he rasped. "That color looks better stained with sin." Bianca gasped, her knees giving way as he swept her into his arms and carried her across the room like she weighed nothing. He laid her down on his jet-black sofa, ripped the silk of her bodice in 2, and stared down at her like a man dying of thirst. "Luca." He kissed down her throat, every inch of her skin igniting beneath his mouth. "I've waited 2 goddamn years to have you like this again," he said against her collarbone. "I don't care if the world burns, I'm not letting you go." His hands were everywhere, thighs, hips, wrists, claiming, demanding, worshipping. She arched beneath him, lost in his gravity. The world outside his penthouse no longer existed. There was only this man, this moment, this war she could never stop fighting and never stop craving. She'd come here to yell, to ask questions, to make sense of the chaos. But now? Now she didn't want answers. She wanted him. Hours passed like seconds. They lay tangled in his sheets, her hair a wild halo on his pillow, his hands sprawled across her bare stomach. Bianca stared at the ceiling, heart still racing. Luca was silent beside her, watching her, always watching. Finally, she whispered, "You ruined my life." He didn't flinch. "I gave you a better one. I can't go back." "No," his voice was gravel. "You can't, and you don't want to." She turned toward him. "You think you can just show up, rip me out of a wedding, and what, own me again?" He leaned up on one elbow, golden eyes locked to hers. "I never stopped owning you." Her breath caught. "You don't marry Nathaniel," he said, tone final. "You marry me." She laughed, harsh and raw. "You're delusional." "No, I'm inevitable." The conviction in his voice sent chills down her spine. She should have fought harder, but some part of her didn't want to. Some part of her already belonged to the darkness wrapped in Italian silk and wolfish grins. Some part of her never stopped waiting for him to come back. Chapter 4, The Morning After. The sun broke over Manhattan with brutal indifference. Gold light spilled across the windows of Luca Maddox's penthouse, illuminating the aftermath of the storm that had ripped through it just hours before. Bianca lay tangled in a bed too expensive to be real, draped in Egyptian cotton and silence. Her body ached in all the right places, claimed, bruised, satisfied, but her mind was at war. She turned her head slowly. Luca was gone. Only the faint scent of his cologne lingered. Leather, spice, and sin. She sat up, pulling the sheets around her bare body, pulse fluttering. The skyline stretched out before her, glittering like nothing had changed. But everything had. She'd left her fiancé at the altar. She'd run into the arms of the man who'd once disappeared without a word. And now she was here, naked in the bed of a billionaire who had no idea how to love anyone the right way, and worse, she didn't want to leave. Her eyes found the clock on the wall. 9:03 a.m. A silver tray sat near the bed. Espresso, fresh croissants, and a handwritten note. Couldn't sleep. Needed to burn off steam at the gym. Don't go anywhere. Her heart did something traitorous. She picked up the note, then set it down like it burned her. She had to get out. Before he made her forget all the reasons she was supposed to walk away. Bianca found her dress, what was left of it, discarded near the sofa. Torn silk, busted zipper, lace smeared with last night's sin. She grabbed the shirt draped over a chair instead. Luca's, crisp white, too large, smelled like him. She padded barefoot through the penthouse, into a room that could only belong to a man like him. All blacks, grays, chrome, and control. Her reflection caught in a mirror, flushed skin, wild hair, bitten lips. She looked ravished. She looked like she belonged to him. And that terrified her more than anything. The elevator doors dinged open. She turned, expecting Luca, but it wasn't. It was her mother. "Bianca!" Elaine Hart stormed into the penthouse like an avalanche in pearls and fury. Bianca froze. "What are you? How did you—" "I've been calling you since yesterday. What in God's name are you wearing?" Bianca's throat dried. Elaine's eyes scanned the room, the bed, the tray. Understanding hit her like a slap. "You didn't." "Mom, you ran from your wedding to shack up with him? You've embarrassed this family beyond recognition." Bianca's fists clenched. "I made a choice." "You made a spectacle. You had a future with Nathaniel, a real one. Stable. Respectable." Bianca stepped forward, trembling with the effort to keep her voice steady. "I don't want safe. I never did." Elaine narrowed her eyes. "You're throwing away your entire life over a man who will never love you the way you deserve. Then maybe I deserve to burn." The words hung in the air, heavy, final. Elaine shook her head, disgusted. "Then you'll burn alone." She turned on her heel and stormed out. Bianca didn't cry. She just stood there shaking, wrapped in a shirt that smelled like heaven, watching her old life vanish one judgmental step at a time. The elevator dinged again. This time it was Luca. He stepped in, sweat slicked and furious, towel slung over his neck. His eyes found hers immediately. "Was that your mother I passed?" Bianca nodded. He tossed the towel aside and crossed the room in 3 long strides. "What did she say?" "Nothing I didn't already know." Her voice cracked. His hands cupped her face. "Hey." She closed her eyes. "I don't care what she thinks, or what the press says, or what this costs me." His voice dropped to a growl. "I'm not losing you again. You don't even know what this is." "Yes, I do." His forehead pressed to hers. "This is real." She pulled back. You disappeared once. How do I know you won't do it again? Because I built this entire empire thinking about the day I'd finally be worthy of standing next to you." Her heart stopped. "I walked away because your father threatened to destroy everything. My family, my legacy, you." Bianca's breath hitched. "You never told me, because I knew you'd try to fix it, and I couldn't let you get caught in that war." She stared at him, tears finally breaking free. "I hated you for leaving," she whispered. "I hated myself more." He leaned in, kissed her softly, nothing like last night. Gentle, devastating. "Stay," he said against her lips. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But then his phone rang. He ignored it. She pulled away. "You should get that. Not more important than you." But the screen flashed again. And again. "Nathaniel." Luca frowned. "He's persistent." Bianca's spine stiffened. "Answer it." He did. "Nathaniel." She couldn't hear the words, but she saw Luca's jaw tighten. His voice dropped. "Careful how you threaten me. I don't play by your rules." A pause. A glare. Then, "Try it and I'll bury you." He hung up. Bianca crossed her arms. "What was that?" "Your ex-fiancé just partnered with your father. They want to crush my company, and me." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "They're starting a war, and they're using you as bait." Bianca backed away. "Then I can't stay here." Luca grabbed her wrist. "You're safer here than anywhere." "This is exactly why I didn't want this," she snapped. "My whole life turns into a power play when you're involved." "It's already a power play, sweetheart. I'm just making sure you win." Her eyes flared. "I didn't ask you to fight for me." He stepped closer. "Doesn't matter. I am." She looked up at him. Towering, dangerous, unstoppable. The devil in a suit. And somehow, the only man who ever made her feel like more than a porcelain trophy. "I don't want to be a pawn," she whispered. "Then be my queen." Chapter 5. The Deal is Dirty. Bianca sat on the edge of the king-sized bed, still wearing Luca's white shirt, her legs bare and crossed tightly beneath her. The city roared beyond the windows, but inside the penthouse it was too quiet, like the silence before a bomb went off. Luca stood in front of her in all his post-gym glory, dark joggers hanging low on his hips, towel slung over his shoulder, sweat glistening along his chest and collarbones. He looked like temptation carved into marble, but it was the fire in his eyes that terrified her more than anything. "They want to destroy you," she said, breaking the silence. "Because of me." Luca gave her that wolfish half-smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Let them try." Bianca shook her head. "They won't come at you directly. They'll leak things to the press, dig up every rumor, every scandal. Let them print it all." He crossed his arms over his chest. "They can't ruin me with headlines." She stood. "But they can ruin me, and you know it." His expression darkened. "They already tried. I'm not letting them finish the job." Bianca walked to the window, arms wrapped around herself as if she could hold the chaos in. "You want to know what I was thinking in that church?" she asked, not turning around. "I was praying someone would stop me. That someone would say I was making a mistake." Her voice trembled. "But I didn't expect it to be you." Luca's reflection appeared behind her, massive and still. "Why not?" "Because I thought you forgot me." "I tried," he said, so low she almost missed it. "But I couldn't. You haunt me, Bianca." She turned slowly, and that was when he said it. "Marry me." She stared at him. He didn't flinch. "What?" she said, like maybe the acoustics in the penthouse were broken. "You heard me. You just found out my father and my ex are trying to sabotage you, and your solution is marriage?" "Fake marriage," he clarified. "At first." She blinked. "Oh, fake marriage. Of course. That makes so much more sense." Luca stepped toward her. "It protects you from the press. It gives me leverage, and it gives them both a middle finger so big it could be seen from orbit." Bianca laughed, one harsh, disbelieving sound. "And what do I get out of it?" He didn't hesitate. "Me." She backed up a step. "That's not an answer. That's a gamble." "No," he said, stalking toward her again, voice velvet-wrapped steel. "It's a guarantee." Bianca crossed her arms. "And what's the catch?" "Simple." He stepped closer, now inches from her. "If we're going to sell the lie, we live together, we act like it's real, and when the cameras stop rolling," his gaze dropped to her lips, "I'm not pretending." Her mouth went dry. "And there are rules," he added. "Of course there are." "1, you don't date anyone else," she snorted. "Obviously." 2, you wear my ring, my name, and everything that comes with it. And 3, his eyes darkened, you sleep in my bed. Her heart flipped. You said fake marriage, she whispered. I said fake at first. He leaned in. But you know as well as I do, there's nothing fake about the way you come apart in my hands. Her body flushed traitorously. She hated him. She wanted him. She hated that she wanted him. I should say no. She breathed. You won't. He was right. She was already folding. Her voice was barely audible. When? Now. He turned and walked toward a sleek cabinet by the fireplace, pulled out a black box, flipped it open. Inside sat a ring that would make queens weep, platinum, heavy, and crowned with a diamond so large it looked dangerous. Jesus, she whispered. Family heirloom, he said. Custom reset. You had this ready? I've always been ready. She eyed the ring. This doesn't feel fake. He met her eyes. It's not. Her hand shook as he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Too perfectly. Like it had always been meant for her. She stared down at it. This is insane. It's us, Luca said. We don't do normal. No, we do destruction, and we look damn good doing it. By sunset, the world knew. Bianca Hart, the runaway bride, was now engaged to Luca Maddox, Manhattan's most notorious billionaire and her ex's estranged brother. Social media exploded. Hart to Maddox trended in 6 countries. Tabloids foamed at the mouth. Blogs speculated everything from revenge plots to secret pregnancies. Bianca watched it all unfold from Luca's lap as they sat in the back of a bulletproof SUV, en route to their first public appearance as a couple. Her hand rested on his thigh, his arm draped over her shoulders. He looked the part perfectly, dominant, proud, calm. But beneath the Armani suit, she felt the tension humming beneath his skin. She turned to him. You're not nervous? No, liar. He looked down at her. The only thing that scares me is you walking away again. Her heart jumped. The driver pulled up to the curb outside a posh art gala. Flashbulbs exploded. The press was already screaming their names. Bianca exhaled. Showtime. Luca's lips brushed her ear. Smile for the cameras, baby. But remember, when we get home, that ring earns you every filthy thing I've ever dreamed of doing to you. Her breath caught. He grinned. And then the door opened, and the game began. Chapter 6. The Jealous Billionaire. The gala was a blur of diamonds, designer gowns, and champagne poured by men who made less in a year than Luca Maddox spent on a bottle. The press swarmed the red carpet like piranhas, snapping shots of Luca with his arm possessively curled around Bianca's waist, their matching smirks sending shockwaves across every platform within seconds. She looked lethal in a black satin gown that dipped scandalously low at the back, custom altered by Luca's personal stylist just hours ago. Every time she moved, the slit at her thigh teased a hint of skin and threatened to start another war. He hadn't taken his eyes off her since they walked in. Bianca was beginning to think he never would again. Luca Maddox, someone drawled behind them as they entered the ballroom. Didn't expect to see you at an arts fundraiser. Luca turned with his signature slow grin. I'm full of surprises. Bianca recognized the speaker instantly. Blaze Kingston, gallery owner, heir to old money, and very single. Blaze's eyes swept down her body with blatant appreciation. And this must be the infamous fiancé, Bianca, right? Correct, she said, offering her hand with a professional smile. He kissed her knuckles. You are even more stunning in person. Luca's hand tightened at her waist. Blaze didn't miss it. He smirked. Careful, Maddox. If you grip her any harder, people might think the rumors are true. Bianca tilted her head. Which rumors? That this engagement isn't about love, Blaze said. It's about winning. Luca's smile vanished. You should go refill your champagne, Kingston, before I break the glass and use it. Blaze lifted his hands. Touchy, touchy. Enjoy your evening. He disappeared into the crowd, unbothered. Bianca turned toward Luca. Seriously? He stared after Blaze, jaw tight. He touched you. He kissed my hand. It's the way he looked at you. She stepped in front of him, amused and annoyed. You're jealous. Of course I'm jealous. Look at you. She blinked. You're allowed to act possessive in private, not in front of donors. You're mine no matter who's watching. Her stomach flipped at the possessiveness in his voice. It's supposed to be fake, remember? He bent low, breath brushing her ear. There's nothing fake about how hard I am right now just thinking about dragging you into that bathroom and fucking the jealousy out of me. Her breath caught. You like this, he murmured, mouth ghosting her neck. You like when I get territorial. She pushed him away with a shaky laugh. Behave. No promises. An hour into the event, Bianca stood near the silent auction table, sipping champagne and listening to some socialite drone on about her summer in Tuscany. Luca was across the room talking business with two investors she didn't recognize. Her eyes kept darting to him. His hand was in his pocket, but she could feel the tension radiating from him. She wasn't the only one watching him. A brunette in a blood-red dress slithered up to him, her laugh too loud, her hand brushing his arm with intention. Bianca's chest tightened. She turned her back on the scene, focused on the art, smiled politely through the rest of the conversation. But when the socialite finally wandered off, she turned again and saw it, the woman's hand on Luca's chest. Too familiar, too bold. Bianca didn't think, she just moved. She reached them just in time to hear the woman say, "You never did return my calls after Aspen." Luca smiled tightly. There was a reason for that. Bianca slid her hand into the crook of his arm. "Hi, baby," she said sweetly, loud enough for the woman to hear. Luca looked down at her with that wolfish smirk. "Jealous? Just claiming what's mine." The woman blinked. "And you are?" "His fiancée," the woman scoffed. "I didn't realize you were serious." Luca's voice dropped. "Dead serious." The woman's eyes narrowed, then she walked off in a huff. Bianca turned to Luca. "Aspen?" He arched a brow. 3 years ago, before you. Doesn't feel like before me. You have nothing to worry about. You still flirt like a single man. I don't flirt. I dominate the conversation." She rolled her eyes and turned to walk away, but he caught her wrist. He dragged her into a private hallway, away from the cameras, against a velvet wall. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "You think I looked at her the way I look at you?" His hand gripped her hip. "You think I wanted her the way I want you?" She gasped as he pressed her back against the wall. "You're the only woman who's ever made me need." He kissed her, hard, fast, possessive. The kind of kiss that made her toes curl and her morals evaporate. "Tell me you don't want me to take you right here, right now." Her nails dug into his suit. "Tell me you don't want to be fucked against this wall with half the gala 10 feet away." She whimpered. "You're mine, Bianca. Say it." "I'm yours." His mouth crashed into hers again. They barely made it out of the hallway with their clothes intact. Later that night, back in the penthouse, Bianca paced the floor while Luca removed his watch and undid the first few buttons of his shirt. "You almost got us caught," she said. He smirked. "You liked it. I liked you. That doesn't mean I like being manhandled in public." "I disagree." She glared at him. "You're impossible. And yet you keep crawling back." She shoved her heels off. "This fake marriage is going to kill me." "It's not fake anymore." She turned slowly. "What?" His voice was calm. "You wore my ring. You kissed me like it was forever. You told a room full of Manhattan elites that you were mine. I was playing a role." "No." He walked toward her. "You were being honest." Her lips parted, but no words came. He stopped inches from her, his fingers tracing the strap of her gown. "The second you said yes to me, Bianca, you stopped pretending." He kissed her shoulder. "And I'll make sure you never want to again." Chapter 7. She's Falling. The next morning, Bianca woke to the smell of dark roast coffee and the sound of music humming softly through the penthouse. Something acoustic and low, real, not background noise. Warm sunlight streamed through the windows, and for the first time since she left the altar, the knot in her chest had loosened. She sat up slowly, the silk sheets sliding over her bare skin. Luca's side of the bed, already empty, but still warm. His scent, amber and leather, lingered like temptation. Her gaze found the balcony doors, where Luca stood shirtless in gray sweats, a mug in one hand, phone in the other. The city sprawled behind him like a kingdom he ruled without apology. She should have been afraid. This arrangement had a timer. A deadline. It wasn't real. But the way he stood there, the way his presence pulled at something deep inside her, it felt real. Worse, it felt right. He turned when she stepped out onto the balcony, the wind catching her loose hair. His eyes swept over her slowly, possessively. "You're awake." "Barely." He handed her the coffee. "Black, 2 sugars, still how you like it." Her heart stuttered. "You remembered." "I never forgot." She took a sip, pretending her fingers weren't shaking. Luca looked down at the street below, then said, "Your father made another move." She stiffened. "He's using old bank documents to tie my early acquisitions to insider information. He's trying to drag me into a federal investigation." Bianca swore under her breath. "He's bluffing. My father doesn't care about ethics. He just wants control." He's not bluffing, Luca said, but he is sloppy. Her brows lifted. What does that mean? I mean, I have friends who owe me favors in places he can't touch. If he wants war, he'll get it. She placed the mug down carefully. This isn't just business anymore. It's personal. It was always personal. He turned to her. You were always the prize. Her chest tightened. I can protect you, Bianca. I will protect you, but you have to let me in. I am in, but I'm not a pawn. He stepped closer. You're not. You're the queen, but you're standing on my side of the board now. She met his gaze. So what happens next? He traced a finger down her jaw. Now, we show them what a real partnership looks like. Later that day, Luca took Bianca to a photo shoot for Covet magazine, a luxury lifestyle empire that had begged for their first cover since news of the engagement broke. Why are we doing this? She asked as they pulled up to the private studio. Control the narrative, Luca said. If we don't feed them the story, they'll write it for us. And what story are we selling today? He looked at her, slow and intense. That we're untouchable. The studio was all high ceilings, white walls, and frantic energy. Stylists, photographers, and makeup artists rushed around like bees to a queen. The moment Bianca stepped in, heads turned. She wore a white silk jumpsuit and heels that could kill a man. Luca was in charcoal. No tie, collar open, watch glinting like a weapon. The editor's assistant approached them breathlessly. We want something raw, intimate, powerful. Like royal scandal meets mafia fairy tale. Bianca blinked. That's oddly specific. It's your brand now, Luca said smoothly. She snorted. Oh, great. They were ushered into position, her standing behind Luca, his hands wrapped around her hips, her back against his chest. He leaned down, lips just grazing her ear. She felt the shiver from scalp to spine. The photographer snapped. Perfect. Give me more heat, more tension, less posed, more need. Bianca turned her head just slightly. Luca's mouth brushed her jaw. And for one dangerous second, she forgot it was a shoot, because it wasn't an act. He touched her like she belonged to him. She kissed him like she believed it. Back in the dressing room, she sat in front of the mirror, wiping off lipstick. Her heart wouldn't slow. Luca appeared behind her, shirt unbuttoned now, looking too good and too smug. You did well, he said. She met his gaze in the mirror. You're enjoying this too much. Only because you are. She turned in her seat. You think I'm falling for this? No, he stepped closer. I think you're falling for me. Her breath hitched. He knelt in front of her, fingers tracing up her thighs under the jumpsuit. You want to believe this is temporary. You keep telling yourself you're in control, but your body gives you away. She swallowed hard. You kiss me like you mean it. You moan my name like it's a prayer. And last night... His eyes flared. You didn't fake a single thing. Stop, she whispered. No. His mouth found her knee, her thigh, the space just above it. Admit it, Bianca. Her fingers twisted in his hair. Admit you're falling. She looked down as man who had broken her once and now held every piece of her again, and for the first time she let it out. I never stopped. Chapter 8, The Secret That Ruined Us. The Covet magazine cover dropped the next morning and shattered the internet. Within 15 minutes of posting, hashtag Luca and Bianca was trending in 38 countries. The photo was fire. Luca seated like a king in a leather chair, hands on Bianca's hips as she straddled his lap in a silk slip dress, her lips hovering just over his. Her engagement ring glittered under studio lighting. Her eyes screamed ownership. His said possession. It was erotic, regal, dangerous, and it sent Nathaniel Drake into a full-scale meltdown. Bianca was in Luca's office, curled up on his couch with a cappuccino, scrolling through the chaos when she got the call. Her father. She stared at the name glowing on her screen like a warning. Luca looked up from his desk. Don't. She hesitated. Bianca, I need to hear what he has to say. He doesn't deserve that. I need closure. Luca stood, crossed the room. Then I'm staying right here. She nodded and took the call. Bianca. Her father's voice was clipped, controlled. I've tried to be patient. Dad, you declared war on the man I'm marrying. You declared war on me the moment you aligned yourself with him. I didn't align with anyone. I followed my heart. He scoffed. He's manipulating you. Don't be foolish. Don't be insulting. Do you want to know why Luca left you 2 years ago? Bianca froze. What are you talking about? He didn't tell you? Her heart pounded. Tell me what? I offered him a deal. Leave you, and I'd sell him the final stake in Maddox Holdings. walk away quietly, and I'd let him build his empire without interference. Bianca's blood turned to ice. Her voice cracked. You paid him to disappear? I didn't pay him, her father snapped. I threatened him. He knew what it meant. Bianca's hand trembled around the phone. He loved me, and love would have ruined both of you. She hung up without another word. Luca watched her closely, jaw clenched. What did he say? Bianca stood slowly, like her bones had turned to glass. He told me the truth. Luca flinched. He said he threatened you. Luca exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Bianca, you didn't tell me. I didn't want you to hate him. I already did, but at least I would have known you chose me. I did choose you, he snapped. That's why I walked away. Her voice cracked. You broke me. You left me on a hotel floor, Luca. You didn't even say goodbye. He moved toward her, hands raised, but she stepped back. I thought I wasn't enough. I thought I disgusted you. Don't. His voice was rough. Don't ever say that. You could have trusted me. I didn't want you caught in the crossfire. I was already in it. Tears finally slipped down her cheeks. She hated them, hated that she still loved him through all of it. He reached for her again, but she whispered, I need space. The words gutted him. He nodded. Take the apartment on 55th. Security will follow you. She stared at him, broken. Is this what it means to love you? Constant war? Always picking between you and everything else? No. His voice was soft. It means you never have to fight alone again. The apartment on 55th was cold, glassy, sterile, like Luca without a heart. Bianca stood at the window and watched the city breathe without her. Her chest felt hollow. She wasn't sure who she was anymore. Luca had sacrificed her to protect her, and her father had sold her future like a pawn. For the first time since the wedding, she had no ring, no dress, no plan, just pain. And one terrifying question. Could love survive a lie that big? Chapter 9, Broken Trust. It rained that night. Not the soft kind that whispered against the windows, but the brutal kind, sharp and relentless, like the sky itself was falling apart. Bianca stood by the window of Luca's spare apartment, arms crossed, watching the lightning split the horizon. It suited her mood perfectly. She hadn't spoken to him in 36 hours. She hadn't cried again either. She felt nothing, and that scared her more than the heartbreak. He'd left her once, then lied about why. Now here she was, tucked into one of his many empty glass fortresses, guarded by men who wouldn't look her in the eye, wearing one of his cashmere hoodies and wondering if she was any different now than she was 2 years ago when he disappeared. The answer was, she wasn't. She still wanted him. And that made her furious. A knock at the door startled her. Her first instinct was to ignore it. But then she checked the peephole. Luca, he was soaked, hair dripping, shirt clinging to every brutal line of his chest, eyes wild. He hadn't shaved. He looked like the storm. Bianca opened the door but didn't move aside. You're getting my hallway wet. I deserved that, he said, voice gravel. You deserve a lot more. Then let me have it. I already did. Not enough. Her jaw clenched. You lied to me. I kept a secret to protect you. Same thing. He stepped closer. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was a kid with a chip on his shoulder and a half-built company. Your father promised to bury me. I believed him. She folded her arms. And you didn't think I deserved a say in that? I didn't want to put you in a position where you had to choose between your family and me. She laughed bitterly. You made that choice for me. I know. He raked a hand through his wet hair, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. Bianca stared at him. Why now? Why come back? Why fight? His eyes burned into hers. Because I got everything I ever wanted, except you. Because I still remember how your voice sounded when you said my name the first time I kissed you. Because I still sleep on the side of the bed you used to curl into. Because no matter how much I win, I still feel like I lost the only thing that mattered. Her throat tightened. I can't fix what I broke, he said softly. But I can ask you to let me earn it back. She looked away. I love you, Bianca. That never changed. That's not the point, she said, voice shaking. Love without trust is just a beautiful lie. He didn't speak. She didn't either, just the storm between them. Later, when he finally left, silently, wet footprints trailing behind him, Bianca collapsed into the couch and stared at the ceiling. She didn't know how to stop loving him. She just didn't know if she could survive loving him again. The next morning, her phone rang, unknown number. She almost let it go to voicemail. but something told her to answer. "Miss Hart?" a woman's voice said. "Yes." "This is Ava James. I used to be your father's assistant." Bianca sat up straighter. "Okay. I found something. You need to see it." "See what?" "Proof of what he did to Luca and to you." Bianca's heart stopped. "Meet me tonight," the woman said. "I'll text the address. Come alone." The line went dead. Bianca arrived at the address hours later, an old bookstore in Soho that smelled like dust and secrets. Ava was waiting in a back office with a manila folder and trembling hands. "I don't have long," she said. "But this," she held out the folder, "is everything. Emails, documents, financial threats. Your father orchestrated it all. Luca tried to fight back, but your dad used offshore shell corporations and ghost investors to corner him. He wasn't lying to you. He was trying to keep you safe." Bianca flipped through the papers, her hands shaking. It was all there, emails from her father to lawyers, threatening injunctions, bank account freezes, even false criminal charges. Luca had signed a silent agreement: walk away from Bianca or lose everything. He hadn't left her. He'd sacrificed himself for her. Tears blurred her vision. "He never told me," she whispered. Ava nodded. "Because he knew you'd do what you're doing now." "What's that?" "Fall apart." Bianca didn't go back to the apartment that night. She went home, to his home. The penthouse was dark when she arrived. The security let her in without a word. She climbed the stairs with her heart in her throat, praying he was there. He was. Sitting on the floor by the fireplace, barefoot, a glass of whiskey untouched beside him, his eyes on nothing. She didn't speak. She crossed the room and sank to the floor beside him. When she pressed her head to his shoulder, he flinched, just once, then exhaled like he hadn't breathed in days. "I know," she said. He didn't move. "I know what you did, what you gave up, why you left." His voice cracked. "I thought I could live with it. I couldn't." They sat there in silence for a long time, just their breathing and the soft flicker of flames. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry I broke your heart." She turned her face toward his. "You didn't break it," she whispered back. "You just made it harder to give away." He looked at her like she was air after drowning. "I want to believe in us again," she said. "Then let me show you why you should." Chapter 10, Enemies at the Door. 2 days after she gave Luca a second chance, Bianca walked into war. The penthouse was full of tension. Sharpened silence, hushed voices on secured calls, and bodyguards posted at every entrance. Luca's usually composed staff were on edge. Phones vibrated every few minutes with new alerts, emails, threats. And Luca? He was a storm, barely contained. Bianca stood in the kitchen, nursing her third espresso, watching him pace the living room like a lion locked in a cage, hair slicked back, jaw clenched, phone gripped in one hand, a file folder in the other. She finally asked, "What's happening?" He paused, eyes flicking to hers. They moved. Her stomach dropped. "Who?" "Nathaniel and your father. They filed a formal SEC complaint this morning, alleging market manipulation, insider trading, corporate fraud, all directed at me." Her heart thundered. "But it's false." "Doesn't matter," he said. "Now the government is watching." Bianca set down her cup. "Luca, this could destroy everything." "I know. And they timed it perfectly," she whispered. "The engagement, the media attention, the photo shoot, it made you a bigger target." Luca's eyes darkened. "They waited until I had something to lose." "Me." He didn't deny it. By noon, Luca's legal team filled the conference room. Bianca stayed close, sitting in the corner while a dozen men in suits argued over strategy, reputational containment, and preemptive countersuits. Luca didn't speak for the first 20 minutes. He sat at the head of the table, watching, listening, calculating. Then he stood, slowly buttoning his blazer. "Everyone out, except Lawson." The room cleared fast. Bianca stayed. Luca turned to Lawson, his head legal counsel. "Pull the documents. All of them. The ones my father signed in 2013, before I bought the Langston portfolio." Lawson stiffened. "Sir, those are sealed. Unseal them. If we go to court, I want every one of their skeletons burned alive." Bianca finally spoke. "What's the Langston portfolio?" Luca's jaw flexed. "The first time I beat your father in a bid, he never forgave me." Bianca walked over to him. "And now? Now he's coming for blood." That night, security doubled. Luca insisted Bianca stay close. No public appearances, no unverified phone calls, no press responses. But she couldn't sit still. "I want to fight." she told him. You are, he said, by breathing, by not letting them see you break. She stared up at him. Let me be useful, he exhaled. You already are. But by midnight, they were no longer alone. An anonymous video surfaced online. It was grainy, poorly edited, but damning. Clips of Luca at clubs, footage of him yelling at a former business rival, paired with voiceovers alleging he'd bribed officials, blackmailed investors, and seduced board members' wives to gain leverage. The narrator called him a billionaire built on blackmail. The video went viral in less than an hour. Bianca found him in his study, eyes glued to the screen. Someone's trying to make you look like a monster, she said. He didn't flinch. They don't have to try hard. She grabbed the remote and shut it off. Don't say that. He finally looked at her. They want to humiliate me, make you question me, turn the public against us. Do you think I care what the public thinks? You should. She stepped closer. I only care about what you do next. Luca exhaled hard, shoulders slumping for the first time in days. This isn't just a smear campaign, Bianca. This is psychological warfare. She touched his arm. Then you need to get ruthless. He stared down at her and nodded once. The next morning, Luca Maddox called a press conference. He walked into the hall like a man stepping onto a battlefield, flanked by lawyers dressed in black on black with Bianca at his side. The reporters exploded. Mr. Maddox, do you deny the allegations? Did you manipulate the market to destroy competitors? Is this engagement just a distraction tactic? Luca held up a hand. The room fell silent. I've been called many things, he said, voice calm but lethal. Cold, strategic, merciless. I won't deny that. I built my empire from the ashes of men who underestimated me. A pause. Then, but I didn't cheat. I didn't manipulate. And I didn't break laws. I broke rules, because the rules were written to keep men like me on the ground. Reporters scribbled furiously. Bianca stood behind him, still, calm, unwavering. Luca continued. And as for this engagement being fake, you're right. It started that way. Bianca's stomach dropped. But it's not anymore. He turned slightly toward her. Because this woman gave me something no one else ever has, a reason to fight for more than just money. Then right there, in front of the world, he reached back and took her hand and laced their fingers together. Chapter 11. His Empire Bleeds. Luca didn't sleep that night. He stood alone in the glass-walled penthouse, staring out at the Manhattan skyline as dawn broke like a quiet surrender. The city was still waking, but his empire was already bleeding. Overnight, 2 key investors withdrew from Maddox Holdings. One of his major contracts, an international shipping firm, had frozen its assets pending an internal ethics review. The smear video, despite being disproven by his legal team, had done its damage. Reputation, perception. It was all that mattered in a world of billion-dollar deals. And right now, Luca Maddox looked toxic. Bianca woke to find the bed empty and the suite colder than usual. She wrapped a blanket around herself and followed the scent of espresso into the living room. Luca was at the bar, pouring coffee into a mug he wouldn't drink. His shirt was half-buttoned, hair a mess, dark circles smudged under his eyes like bruises. Bianca crossed the room and placed a hand on his back. Luca, he didn't turn. You need to eat something. I need to fix this. She slid in front of him, forcing his eyes to meet hers. We will. But his gaze was hollow. They're gutting me, Bianca. One thread at a time. Public confidence, market value, loyalty from within. She reached for his hand. You built this from nothing. You can build it again. He shook his head slowly. It's not just about the company. It's about control, power, influence. They want to reduce me to a cautionary tale. The billionaire who flew too close to the sun. You're not Icarus. He finally looked at her, and his voice cracked when he whispered, I'm scared. Bianca blinked. It was the first time she'd ever heard Luca Maddox admit weakness, and it broke something open inside her. She pulled him into her arms. You don't have to be strong with me. I don't know how to be anything else. Then learn, with me. An hour later, Bianca met with Luca's PR strategist, Sophia Vance, a sleek, terrifying woman with diamond-sharp cheekbones and zero tolerance for bullshit. The court of public opinion is swaying, Sophia said, flipping through a stack of printouts. If we want to win this, we don't just defend Luca, we redefine him. Bianca raised an eyebrow. As what? Sophia grinned. A man in love. Luca scowled from across the room. No, Sophia smirked. Public redemption arc. You've been the villain for too long. It's time to make them believe in the lover. Bianca leaned forward. How? A charity campaign, crisis response fund, soft press features, and a live interview, something raw, something unscripted. Luca's voice was sharp. Not happening. Sophia didn't blink. Then kiss your company goodbye. Bianca reached for his hand under the table. You've been ruthless for the boardroom, she whispered. Be vulnerable for me. His jaw clenched, but he nodded. The next morning, the headlines changed. Luca Maddox pledges $10 million to Inner City Tech Initiative. From ruthless to reformed, Maddox opens up in rare interview. Bianca Hart, I love the man behind the power. The comments were mixed, half admiration, half suspicion, but the tide was shifting. Bianca could feel it, until it wasn't. 3 nights later, Luca's private banker called with a voice like a funeral bell. There's been a breach. Luca's body went still. Where? Internal. Maddox Holdings. Offshore accounts were flagged in Zurich. Someone leaked access codes. It's a coordinated move. 6 international branches have frozen your holdings. Luca turned slowly toward Bianca. His voice was ice. You're the only one who had those codes. Bianca's heart stopped. What? You accessed the Zurich files yesterday morning. Her blood ran cold. I wouldn't. He stared at her like he didn't recognize her. Then who did? She grabbed her phone, pulled up her login timestamps, and froze. It's not possible. What? She turned the screen to him. It says I logged in at 3:17 a.m. You were asleep, I know, and my phone was charging in the kitchen. Luca stared at her, and she saw the doubt flicker in his eyes. It killed her. You think I would betray you? I don't know what to think, he said quietly. Bianca stepped back like he'd slapped her. Then this was all fake after all. Bianca, no, her voice broke. I stood by you. I fought for you. I believed in you, and the second something goes wrong, you doubt me? He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. I'm under siege. I don't know who to trust, she whispered. Then trust the woman you asked to marry you. Silence. Then, I can't afford blind spots. Tears filled her eyes. Then I can't afford to be here. She packed her things in 10 minutes. He didn't stop her. Not even when the elevator doors closed on the shattered look in his eyes. The next morning, headlines screamed again. Bianca Hart walks out on Luca Maddox. Maddox Holdings in freefall power couple no more. Luca's empire was collapsing, and he'd let the one person who could have saved it walk away. Chapter 12. Back in his arms. Bianca hadn't meant to return. She told herself she was done. Done with the chaos, the mistrust, the war zone that had become her love story. After she left Luca, she disappeared into the kind of hotel where no one asked for last names. She turned off her phone, avoided the news, and spent 2 days staring at the ceiling of a luxury suite that felt more like a tomb. But no matter how far she ran, she couldn't outrun the ache in her chest. The truth? She missed him. She missed the scent of his skin at midnight, the way his fingers traced patterns on her spine when he thought she was asleep, the heat in his eyes when she challenged him, the way he always whispered mine like a promise and a curse. She missed Luca, and whether he deserved it or not, her heart still beat for him. On the 3rd morning, she got a message from an unknown number. Come to the Southridge rooftop. Midnight. Come alone. A friend. She should have ignored it. She didn't. The Southridge building was one of Luca's oldest properties, before the billion-dollar empire, before the Maddox name struck fear and admiration in boardrooms around the globe. He'd bought it with inherited cash and stubborn pride, poured sweat into its bones. She remembered the night he brought her here. They were just 2 kids back then, playing house in an empty shell. They drank stolen whiskey on the roof and talked about the lives they wanted. The future felt impossible but bright. Now it just felt broken. She stepped onto the rooftop at 11:59 p.m., and there he was, Luca, sitting on the edge of the ledge like he didn't care if he fell. No suit, no watch, no mask, just him, raw and ruined. Bianca's breath caught. He didn't turn. Didn't think you'd come, he said softly. I almost didn't, she replied. He looked over his shoulder. His face was pale beneath the city lights, bruised with sleeplessness and something worse. Regret. I needed to see you, he said. I didn't leak anything, she blurted. I swear to God, Luca, I didn't touch those accounts. He nodded slowly. I know. Her throat tightened. Do you? It was your father? Bianca's eyes widened. He had someone clone your login credentials, Luca continued. I found the trace file this morning. Our IT security team missed it. It was buried deep. Professional job. Relief hit her like a wave, and then fury. You accused me. You let me leave thinking you didn't trust me. I didn't deserve to stop you. His voice cracked. You needed to walk away from me. Maybe you still do. She stepped closer. Why would he do that? Use my name? Because I made it very public that you were my only soft spot. His lips curled bitterly. He didn't just want to destroy me, he wanted to break you. Bianca's chest tightened. I should have known. I should have. No, Luca stood, walked toward her. You've already given enough. I'm the one who failed. He stopped a foot away. I failed to protect you, to believe in you, to choose you when it counted. Tears burned her eyes. Why are you telling me this now? He took a breath that sounded like it hurt. Because I still love you. She flinched. He stepped forward. I love you in a way that makes no sense, in a way that terrifies me. I love you more than the empire I bled for, more than revenge, more than my name. Bianca stared at him. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I need you to know I would burn it all down to keep you, even if it means rebuilding from ash. Her voice shook. Then why didn't you come find me sooner? Because I thought I'd lost the right. A beat of silence passed between them, heavier than all the noise of the city below. Then she asked, Do you still want me? His eyes turned molten. I never stopped. He reached out slowly like she might disappear. She didn't. His hands cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. Her lips parted, but she couldn't speak, not when everything inside her was already screaming yes. And then he kissed her, slow, deep, consuming. It wasn't the kind of kiss that forgave. It was the kind that reclaimed. And she let it. They spent the rest of the night in that rooftop memory, pressed against the railing, tangled in each other, fire and desperation. He kissed her like salvation. She clung to him like he was the only real thing left. It wasn't about fixing the past. It was about surrendering to the truth they could never outrun. The next morning, Luca held her in bed like a man starving for warmth. His lips brushed her shoulder. His voice was hoarse. I'm shutting down 3 of the foreign divisions, selling the lower-tier assets, cutting the cancer out. Bianca blinked, twisting to face him. Why? So I can rebuild the company without compromise, without shadows. She searched his face. That's massive. He nodded. I want a future with you, and I'm done letting the past decide what that looks like. She kissed him softly. No games, no armor, just truth. You have me, she whispered. I always did. Chapter 13. A new proposal. For the first time in weeks, the penthouse was quiet. Not with tension, not with plotting or war, but peace. It unnerved Bianca almost as much as it soothed her. She sat on the floor with her legs tucked beneath her, flipping through the latest printouts from Luca's team, documents showing the damage, the fallout, the restructuring. Luca had followed through. 3 divisions were closed. 2 international deals were dissolved, and Maddox Holdings, while smaller, was clean, stripped of corruption, reborn. Bianca traced her fingers along the edge of the papers. This wasn't just business. This was him choosing her over power, choosing them over everything else. She heard footsteps behind her, barefoot, deliberate. Can I steal you for an hour? Luca asked, voice low. She looked up. He was in a black turtleneck and slacks, no watch, no jacket. He looked more like the man she'd met years ago, pre-empire, pre-war. Bianca stood slowly. What's going on? His smile was secretive. Come with me. They drove in silence for 10 minutes before pulling up to the West Village. Bianca raised a brow when Luca parked in front of a small, ivy-covered brownstone. What is this? He didn't answer. Inside, the scent of old wood and lemon polish filled the air. The floors creaked under her heels. The space was warm, full of soft lighting and charm. A massive skylight above poured afternoon light into a room with no furniture, just a stack of books on the floor and a record player in the corner. She turned to him slowly. This isn't one of your properties. Nope. Then what is it? Luca exhaled. A promise. She blinked. What? He walked over to the corner and lifted a dusty blanket off something, a framed photo of her. Her eyes went wide. I bought this place 2 years ago, he said, the week I walked away from you. Bianca's throat tightened. I thought I was doing the right thing, leaving, he continued. But I couldn't let go. I kept imagining what it would have been like to build a life with you, something real. So I bought this. It reminded me of the version of myself I used to be, the one who believed I could be worthy of you. Bianca touched the photo with trembling fingers. It was a candid from one of her early fashion shoots. She was laughing, hair blowing across her face. She hadn't even known the camera was there. I come here sometimes when I can't breathe, he said, just to remember what it felt like before everything got dark. Tears filled her eyes. Luca, he stepped toward her. I know we already did the ring. I know this engagement started as a lie, but I don't want a fake life anymore. I want this, us, without secrets, without war. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and dropped to one knee. Bianca's breath caught. This isn't for the press. This isn't damage control. This is real. He opened the box. A new ring, sleek, timeless. A single oval-cut diamond set on a delicate platinum band. Nothing flashy, just perfect. Marry me, he said softly. For real this time. Not for revenge, not to fight your father, not to win anything, just because I'm yours. If you'll still have me. Her heart broke open all over again. She dropped to her knees in front of him, eyes spilling tears. You idiot, she whispered, laughing through it. You didn't have to ask again. I did, he said, voice rough. Because you deserve to say yes on your terms. She took the ring, slid it on her finger. It fit. Of course it did. Then she kissed him. Not slow, not gentle, but sure. They stayed in the brownstone that night, curled up on the hardwood floor with a bottle of wine and a blanket he pulled from a forgotten closet. She lay on his chest, legs tangled with his, listening to the rain start outside. Do you ever wonder how different things would have been if we'd done it all right the first time? She asked. No, he said, because if we had, I wouldn't have learned how far I'd go to get you back. Bianca closed her eyes and smiled. It wasn't about the ring or the real estate or even the proposal. It was about the man who'd once broken her, now becoming the only one strong enough to hold her together. Chapter 14. One last obstacle. 3 weeks. That's how long the world believed in their second engagement. 3 weeks of magazine spreads, gala appearances, photo ops that didn't have to be faked anymore. Bianca walked into every room with Luca's hand in hers, and for once, it wasn't a performance. Their kisses lingered longer. Their touches weren't for show. And when the cameras shut off, their passion only burned hotter. She'd never felt more loved or more claimed, until the night she disappeared. It started at her final gown fitting. The wedding was in 5 days. Bianca stood in front of a full-length mirror inside a designer's private atelier, dressed in a masterpiece, white silk crepe, off-the-shoulder sleeves, a slit that danced up her thigh, and a cathedral-length train laced with hand-embroidered lilies. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever worn. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her phone buzzed again. Luca, running late, be there in 10, don't leave without me. She smiled and texted back, wouldn't dream of it. She didn't know it'd be the last thing she sent him. The assistant designer came in with a jewelry box. These just arrived, your final pieces. Bianca opened the box and froze. They weren't the pieces she'd chosen. These were different. The diamond choker was eerily familiar, because it had once belonged to her mother who'd had it stolen during a break-in 12 years ago. She stared at the velvet lining. A note was tucked beneath the chain. Old things resurface, don't they? Just like bad decisions. Bianca's heart stopped. Nathaniel. She backed away from the box like it might explode. Her hand reached for her phone, but it was already gone. So was the assistant designer. And the door was locked. Luca Maddox didn't panic. He never panicked. But when Bianca didn't respond to his 5th call, and her driver said she'd never return to the car, Luca's hands shook for the first time in a decade. By the time his security team swept the atelier, it was empty. All surveillance tapes erased. No note, no phone, no trace. Bianca Hart had vanished, and Luca Maddox had just become a monster. He called every contact, activated every protocol. The city was his chessboard, and he moved like war. Within 3 hours, he had one solid lead. A van, dark gray, no plates, seen exiting a side alley near the dress shop 3 minutes before Bianca was due to leave. Inside connections at the DMV said the van was last registered to a shell company linked to Nathaniel Drake. By nightfall, Luca stood in a warehouse on the Brooklyn waterfront, eyes cold, fists clenched. A security expert pulled up blueprints. We've tracked the van to a private airstrip. No flight plan filed, but infrared shows a twin-prop craft went dark on the radar about 30 miles offshore. Luca's voice was flat. Then get me a boat. His bodyguard shifted. Sir, you don't know if she's even. Luca turned to him, fire in his voice. She's alive. I'd feel it if she wasn't. And that was the truth. Luca didn't believe in fate, but he believed in Bianca, and he would bring her back, or bury every man who got in his way. Bianca woke in a concrete room with no windows and a single bulb overhead. Her wrists were zip-tied, her lip was split. She didn't remember the blow, only the sharp sting after it landed. Across the room, Nathaniel sat in a metal chair, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up like he was on break. You look beautiful, he said. Bianca spat blood onto the floor. You look like desperation, Nathaniel smirked. Still sharp, even now. What's the end game here, Nathaniel? You think he won't find me? I want him to. This is about leverage. Her eyes narrowed. Over what? Over the truth. He leaned forward. Your precious Luca isn't who you think he is. I know exactly who he is. Nathaniel's eyes darkened. He destroyed my family, took my inheritance, dismantled my reputation. You lost, Nathaniel. That doesn't mean he cheated. No, but it means I get to return the favor. He stood slowly. He stole everything from me, so now I take what he values most. He knelt beside her, his fingers grazing her cheek. She didn't flinch. You were supposed to be mine. Bianca smiled through the blood. I was never yours, and I never will be. When Luca arrived at the compound 6 hours later, he didn't bring a team, just a gun. And wrath. He moved like a phantom through the dark hallways, every step silent, every door breached without hesitation. Men went down before they even knew he was inside. He didn't need backup. He was the storm. He found Bianca in the center room, bloody, bruised, but alive. His chest cracked open at the sight of her. Bianca? She looked up. Took you long enough. And then he was there, ripping through her zip ties, pulling her into his arms. His breath hitched when he kissed her temple. I'm going to kill him. I'd like to watch. They turned together as the door creaked open. Nathaniel stood there, gun raised. You made a mistake coming here, he said. Luca stepped in front of Bianca. No, you made the mistake thinking you could touch what's mine. And then he fired. One shot, straight to the knee. Nathaniel screamed, dropped to the floor. Luca walked over, kicked the gun away, and leaned down slowly. I warned you once, he whispered. This time, I make sure you don't walk away. Then he turned to Bianca. Let's go home. They left the compound hand in hand, bloodied but unbroken. Bianca pressed herself against his side as the helicopter lifted off. You came for me? She whispered. His voice broke. Always. Chapter 15. Reclaimed at the Altar. 3 days after Luca dragged Bianca out of hell, she stood at the altar in the same dress she was supposed to wear the day everything fell apart. Only this time, there were no paparazzi, no press, no designer seating charts, just family, chosen family, and Luca. The man who had stolen her, broken her, healed her, and loved her through it all. The ceremony was held in the courtyard of the South Ridge brownstone, the same place he'd proposed to her for real. Twinkle lights danced through the ivy. Classical music played low and smooth. The night air smelled of jasmine and spring rain. Bianca walked down the aisle barefoot, hand in hand with her godmother, since her father had forfeited his right the moment he sold her like a business asset. She wasn't nervous. Not anymore. Because she knew exactly what she was walking into. And this time, no one would stop it. Luca stood at the altar in a midnight black tuxedo, shirt open at the collar, no tie. His hair was slicked back, his jaw clean-shaven, his eyes locked on hers like she was the only thing anchoring him to the earth. He looked like sin. He looked like home. When she reached him, he took her hands, his thumbs brushing the bandages on her wrists where zip ties had left angry marks. You okay? He whispered. She nodded, eyes full of fire. Let's do this. The officiant was a retired judge who owed Luca a favor and didn't ask questions. He kept the ceremony short, but when he said, "You may now exchange vows," Luca didn't hesitate. He didn't pull out paper. He didn't look away. He just spoke. When I met you, he said, I thought you were too bright for me. Too soft. Too good. I thought I would ruin you. He paused, breath catching. And I did. But somehow, you still chose me. Even when I didn't deserve it. Even when I doubted you. Even when the world told you to run, you stayed. Bianca's lips trembled. You're my anchor, my fury, my redemption. I built an empire to impress you. I destroyed it to keep you, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving you were worth it all." A few guests were already crying, then Bianca spoke. "You've always been the storm, Luca, but you're also the calm after. The reason I found my voice. The reason I remembered what it means to fight, not just for power, but for love." He closed his eyes for a beat like the words physically hit him. "I loved you when you left. I loved you when you broke me. I loved you when you came back." She stepped closer. "And I'll keep loving you until death, destruction, and every scandal they throw at us, and then after." The judge barely finished the line, "You may now kiss the bride," before Luca crushed her to him and kissed her like it was the only thing that ever mattered. The guests exploded in applause. Fireworks lit up the sky above them. Luca's surprise, of course. And Bianca knew in that moment even the sky would bow for him. The reception wasn't a party. It was a reckoning. Luca stood at the head of the table and gave a toast that didn't pull punches. "To the men who tried to ruin us," he said, voice like velvet and gunfire, "you failed." He raised his glass to Bianca, "To the woman who turned me into something worth saving." And she raised hers back, "To the man who set fire to the world just to walk through it for me." Later that night, he carried her upstairs, still barefoot, dress torn at the slit, veil lost somewhere in the courtyard. He set her on the bed and stared down at her like a man starving. "You're mine," he whispered, undoing the last clasp at her shoulder. "I always was," she whispered back, pulling him down with her. They didn't make love that night. They claimed each other. Again and again, until dawn broke across their skin and the city outside quieted for them. Bianca lay in his arms after, watching the sun paint him gold. She traced the edge of his jaw. "So what happens now?" Luca smiled, eyes still closed. "Now we start our empire. Together this time. No secrets, no lies." She brushed her lips to his. "And if the world comes for us again?" He opened his eyes, dark and dangerous. "Then we make it bleed." Chapter 16. The Takeover. Married life with Luca Maddox was anything but quiet. Bianca expected a honeymoon. A few weeks of bliss, maybe Europe, maybe Bali. She even packed swimsuits. Instead, she got a boardroom. 1 week after the wedding, Bianca walked into the top floor of Maddox Holdings, restructured, renamed, and redesigned, with the kind of energy that made grown men stand straighter. She was no longer the fiancé, or the socialite, or the scandal. She was Mrs. Maddox, and that title carried power. "Every board member will be in the room," Luca told her that morning, adjusting his cufflinks in the mirror. "They don't know you're coming." She tilted her head. "Should I wear something terrifying?" He smirked. "Something unforgettable." So she did. Bianca walked into the executive boardroom in a black silk blouse, high-waisted trousers, and stilettos sharp enough to cut glass. Her hair was twisted into a sleek knot, her makeup minimal, and around her throat sat the diamond choker Nathaniel once used to threaten her. It sparkled like a middle finger. The board's chatter died instantly. Luca stood at the head of the table, arms folded, dark and calm as a panther. "This is Bianca Maddox," he said, voice steady. "My wife, and starting today, the chief vision officer of the Maddox Collective." A few men shifted in their seats. One cleared his throat. "Mr. Maddox, is this a formal vote?" Luca smiled. "It's a decree." Bianca stepped forward, sliding a folder onto the table. "You'll find my 5-year forecast, PR overhaul plan, and digital equity projections inside. Also a list of names that will no longer be part of this boardroom by end of day." The silence turned sharp. "You don't have the authority," one man began. Luca cut him off. "She speaks for me. Challenge her, and you challenge me." The room froze. Bianca smiled sweetly. "Now, shall we begin?" By the end of the meeting, 3 board members had resigned. 2 more were under review for breach of confidentiality. Bianca had uncovered anonymous leaks to the press in less than 48 hours. Luca watched from the corner, arms crossed, eyes burning with pride. She didn't just belong at his side, she belonged at the top. Later that night, they stood on the penthouse balcony, champagne in hand, overlooking the city that now bowed to both of them. "You were savage in there," Luca murmured. She leaned into his chest. "You told me to leave no survivors." "I did," he whispered, brushing his lips against her ear. "And now you're mine in every way." Her heart beat harder. "Your empire," she said. "Our empire." She turned to him. So what's next? His eyes darkened. We expand. Over the next 2 weeks, Bianca became a ghost on every luxury gossip blog. She was seen shaking hands with political advisors, photographed stepping out of secret meetings with rival CEOs, and leaked to be negotiating an education initiative tied to Maddox Holdings. But behind closed doors, they were more dangerous than ever. Deals were brokered with wine and lace. Arguments were settled between silk sheets and power plays. Every decision was foreplay. Every merger, a love letter written in strategy and sin. Bianca didn't just adapt. She thrived. Until the past came calling. One morning, Luca handed her a document over coffee. A name was highlighted. Isabella DeSantis. Bianca blinked. Who is this? She's the new interim CEO of Drake Financial. Her stomach dropped. Related to Nathaniel? Luca nodded. Sister. She's taking over? Officially, yes, but unofficially, she's planning retaliation. Drake Holdings was absorbed after we exposed the offshore scandal, but there are assets left. Quiet ones. Bianca narrowed her eyes. And you think she wants revenge? I think she wants you. Me? Luca leaned closer. She's already requested a meeting. Personal. Private. Tomorrow. Bianca stared at him. And you're letting me go? I'm sending you. Why? Because no one expects the queen to move first. The meeting took place at a museum after hours, private room, no guards, just Bianca and Isabella. The younger DeSantis was elegant, blonde, and unreadable. Dressed in pale blue and pearls, she looked like she belonged on a trust fund brochure, but her eyes were lethal. I didn't expect you to come, Isabella said. I don't make threats from the sidelines, Bianca replied. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. They studied each other for a moment, then Isabella leaned in. I want my brother's name cleared, his money restored. Bianca didn't blink. He tried to ruin us, kidnapped me, nearly killed your family's reputation. Isabella's jaw tensed. He made mistakes, but he's still blood. Bianca folded her arms, then bleed for him. Isabella tilted her head. You'd really go to war again? Bianca smiled. You think this isn't war? When Bianca returned to the penthouse, she didn't say a word, just handed Luca a piece of paper. What is this? Everything she offered, and everything she's hiding. He read it slowly, then looked up at her. His voice was low. You played her. I dismantled her. Luca's mouth curved into a grin. Remind me to never cross you. She stepped into his arms. Too late. And then she kissed him like the world could end tomorrow, and she'd die queen. Chapter 17. The Luna Strike. Bianca's name trended worldwide the next morning. Not because of another dress, not because of her title, but because she had crushed a corporate legacy in one night. The deal she handed Luca, terms extracted from Isabella DeSantis under the soft gleam of chandelier light, became the weapon Maddox Holdings needed to close the final door on Drake Financial. In a single maneuver, Bianca stripped what remained of the Drake's portfolio, sold their intellectual property to Maddox's media branch, and funneled the profits into a new women-led venture fund. Overnight, the world watched the girl they thought was just the pretty face behind the powerful man turn into something else entirely. A force. A queen. A Luna. I don't understand the name, Sophia, the PR lead, said as she reviewed Bianca's pitch. Why call it Luna? Bianca smirked. The Luna is the alpha female in a wolf pack. Sophia blinked. So? She doesn't bark, Bianca said, folding her arms. She leads, quietly, unapologetically, while the alphas roar. Luca, standing beside her, looked like he wanted to pin her against the glass wall of the conference room. You're turned on right now, aren't you? She muttered as they exited. He leaned in. I've been hard since you humiliated a legacy banking family on a weekday. But not everyone applauded Bianca's rise. Her name flooded news headlines, op-eds, and private investor circles. Some praised her. Others painted her as a femme fatale, manipulative, dangerous, driven by vengeance. And then there was the letter, delivered by hand to her private office. No stamp, no sender, just one line. Queens fall harder than kings. She stared at the handwriting, cold dread curling low in her spine. She took the letter straight to Luca. He scanned it in seconds. His eyes went cold. Isabella. I thought she accepted the deal, Bianca said. She accepted defeat, not silence. He pulled up encrypted files on his tablet, tapping rapidly. Drake Financial is gone, but Isabella still controls the DeSantis family trust. That includes old properties in Europe, weaponized shell companies, even black market crypto arms. Bianca raised a brow. So she's not just throwing words. She's planning something. Later that night, Luca brought her to a private server room below Maddox Tower. "This stays between us," he said. She watched him input his codes and unlock a firewall with her biometric scan. "What is this?" He brought up a single file. Project Luna, Strike Protocol. Bianca's throat dried. "What is that?" He looked at her, expression deadly serious. "Insurance." He clicked into the file. What appeared next chilled her. Surveillance logs, email intercepts, offshore bank tracing, corporate blackmail records, all tied to Isabella DeSantis, all preloaded and ready to detonate. Bianca turned to him slowly. "You've had this ready?" Since the moment she requested that meeting, her jaw clenched. "And if I'd said no, I would have deleted it." "Luca, she threatened you. This isn't a rivalry, it's warfare, and I protect what's mine." Bianca stared at the screen. Then she whispered, "Then let's finish this." They went public 2 days later. A single exposé. No fanfare. Just the truth. Drake family tied to off-record corporate manipulation through DeSantis Holdings. The article linked Isabella's shell operations to failing pharmaceutical labs, offshore gambling networks, and a known arms dealer launderer. The backlash was swift. 2 investors fled the remaining trust. Interpol requested a private inquiry, and Isabella? She vanished. But not before sending one last message. A video, sent to Bianca's private phone, just 5 seconds long. Isabella's face, pale, lit by candlelight, her voice low and venomous. "You think it ends here? You stole my crown, now I'll take your kingdom." Then static, then black. Luca watched the video 5 times before speaking. "She's not bluffing." Bianca stared at the screen. "She won't get close enough." "She doesn't have to," he said darkly. "She'll send someone who can." "Then we bring the walls in. Everything tightens, your security, your detail, your movement." Bianca shook her head. "I'm not hiding again. This isn't about hiding, it's about surviving." She walked to him, placed a hand on his chest. "You gave me the tools to fight. Let me use them." Luca's jaw ticked. "I'll never forgive myself if something happens to you." Her voice was soft but firm. "Then don't let it." That night, they lay in bed facing each other, no words, just breathing. The calm before a storm they could feel but not yet see. Bianca traced the tattoo on his ribs, the one she'd never asked about. A wolf wrapped around a flame. "Why that?" she whispered. He closed his eyes. "Because I've always burned for you." And in the silence, she knew, whatever came next, they'd walk through it together. Fire and all. Chapter 18. Her empire bleeds. Bianca knew something was wrong the moment she stepped into the boardroom. The silence wasn't right. Not the calm kind, but the kind that buzzed with suppressed panic. Executives avoided eye contact. Assistants hovered near the doors like they were waiting for a bomb to go off. Luca wasn't there. She glanced at her phone. No messages. Then her chief of operations, Eliza, walked in, white-faced, holding a trembling iPad. "You need to see this," Eliza said. Bianca took the device, and the second the video started playing, her heart dropped. It was footage of her, edited together with surgical malice. Grainy hotel clips of her with Luca. Close-up paparazzi shots of them laughing after the gala. Audio overlays of conversations, some private, some taken from public speeches, stitched together to make her sound power-hungry, manipulative, even treasonous. But the final blow? An altered voiceover, that in her voice saying, "I never loved him, it was always about power." Bianca's knees nearly buckled. Eliza grabbed her elbow. "We traced it back to a private signal bounce out of Prague. The leak went to 5 major media houses. 2 already bit. If this runs..." Bianca didn't need the rest. She set the iPad down. Cold rage coursed through her veins. "Where's Luca?" "Still in Boston, the investors' summit." Bianca turned, already reaching for her phone, and froze. A new message lit up the screen. "Unknown number. You bled my name dry. Now I'll do the same to yours. Consider this round 1. By the time Luca's plane touched down, the fire had already spread. 3 corporate sponsors had pulled out of the Maddox Collective's upcoming tech conference. A dozen news blogs ran exclusive exposés on Bianca's strategic social climb. And the worst? A high-ranking political figure, once an ally, withdrew his endorsement of Bianca's new Luna fund. Luca stormed into the penthouse, unbuttoning his jacket with fury in every movement. Bianca was waiting for him, pacing in bare feet, dressed in black silk pants and one of his shirts. "You saw it," she said without preamble. He nodded, jaw locked. Isabella's signature, elegant, brutal, and just credible enough to ignite doubt. She didn't just come after us this time, Bianca whispered. She came for me. Luca took her face in both hands. We'll destroy her. Bianca shook her head. Not this time, he frowned. What do you mean? She stepped back, fire in her eyes. We've been reacting, defending, cleaning up after her messes, but if we keep doing that, she wins. Luca's brows drew together. What are you suggesting? We don't wait, we hunt. The plan took shape in the hours that followed. Step 1. Discredit the leak. Bianca scheduled an emergency press conference for 10 a.m. sharp. No advisors, no statements, just her. She stood behind the podium in a sharp ivory suit, hair pulled into a tight chignon, eyes steel. I know what you saw, she began, and I know what you heard. Cameras clicked. Every live feed was locked onto her. But what you don't know is who wants me silent, who has something to lose if I continue to rise, who fears a woman with power and no leash. She looked straight into the camera. I didn't climb. I built, and anyone trying to rewrite my story will choke on their own narrative. Applause burst through the crowd. Online, her speech went viral within an hour. #LunaDoesn'tFall trended globally. Fan accounts started posting side-by-side edits, the doctored footage versus real interviews. But that was just the beginning. Step 2, follow the money. Luca tasked his best forensic auditor to track every digital fingerprint linked to the video. They found a trail, cryptocurrency transfers, hidden accounts, and an anonymous donor linked to one of Isabella's dissolved trusts. Proof of funding, proof of sabotage, proof of war. Step 3. Bleed her out. Bianca made a private visit to one of Isabella's last loyal allies, a Swiss investor named Grayson Wolfe, a man known for ruthlessness and greed. She met him in a luxury lounge over scotch and silence. When he asked why she'd come, she slid him a folder. It contained the names of 3 competitors who would buy his remaining shares at a 30% markup if he dropped Isabella's assets. You want me to betray her, he said, sipping slowly. No, Bianca replied. You want me to owe you a favor. He smiled and signed the deal. That night, Bianca returned to the penthouse and dropped the signed contract on Luca's desk. She's out of capital, she said. Now we make her disappear. Luca looked up at her with something dangerous in his eyes, pride and hunger. You're terrifying, he whispered. She straddled him in the chair, kissed him hard. You made me this way. The next morning, Isabella's last shell company dissolved. The smear campaign was officially retracted by every platform. And Bianca? She became more powerful than ever. She didn't just survive the attack, she turned it into a throne. Chapter 19, Luca's Wrath. The calm didn't last long. 2 days after Bianca's press conference obliterated Isabella's smear campaign, Luca received the call. At 3:12 a.m. from one of his oldest guards. He was barely awake when he answered, voice sharp. What is it? The answer chilled him to the bone. Sir, the brownstone was hit. Luca was on the road in under 10 minutes, dressed in black jeans and a leather jacket, a gun holstered beneath. Bianca stood in the doorway, barefoot, wrapped in a robe, eyes wide. I'm coming with you. No, his voice was clipped. Luca, it's not safe. You're not going alone. Their eyes locked. She didn't back down, and he knew then. This wasn't his war anymore. It was theirs. The South Ridge brownstone, their haven, the site of his real proposal, the place that meant everything, was nothing but ash and glass. Flames were out, but the air still smoked. Charred beams sagged under the weight of memories turned to ruin. Fire trucks blocked the street. Police tape fluttered in the wind. Bianca stood frozen, one hand over her mouth. Luca didn't say a word. He stepped under the tape, past the flashing lights, and into the wreckage. Cinders cracked under his boots. A firefighter tried to stop him. He kept walking. He didn't stop until he reached the center of the ruin, where her photo had once hung. The candid one. Her laughing in the wind, burned, gone. He stood there, unmoving, as the smoke curled around him like a crown of flame. Bianca approached slowly. They're saying it was an electrical fire, that it started in the basement. He said nothing. She stepped closer. You don't believe that, do you? He turned to her, eyes like steel sharpened in fire. This was a message, Bianca swallowed. From her? She couldn't ruin your name, so she tried to ruin your heart. Bianca's voice cracked. Then what do we do now? He stared at the flames one last time and whispered, We burn her down. The retaliation wasn't planned. It was unleashed. Within 12 hours, Luca had moved all his private security into full alert. Every contact in intelligence, finance, politics, and tech was activated. Isabella's name was blacklisted across international financial channels. Anyone caught doing business with her would face quiet, terminal consequences. But it wasn't enough. Luca needed to end her. He needed her to feel it. He found her in Paris, private residence, gated, guarded, unguarded enough for him. He left Bianca in a secure jet, still refueling on the tarmac outside the city. She didn't argue this time because she knew what he was about to do. He broke in just after dusk. No gun, no crew, just Luca Maddox and rage. He took down the first guard with a broken jaw. The second crumpled beneath a knee to the ribs. By the time he reached the third floor, Isabella was already retreating, barefoot in a silk robe, fear naked on her face. She locked the door behind her. He didn't stop. His fist shattered the handle like it was paper. Luca. No. He entered the room like death in a tailored jacket. You should have stayed silent, he said, voice like smoke. I didn't start this. You touched what's mine. She ruined my family. She exposed your brother. You tried to kill her for it. Isabella stepped back, voice rising. She made you weak. You were a god before her. You were... He moved fast, pinned her to the wall with one hand. His eyes were cold, merciless. Say her name again, and I swear, Isabella, you won't have a mouth left to do it. She stared at him, trembling. What do you want? She whispered. I want you gone. She smirked. You don't have the balls to kill me. He leaned in. I don't have to. He dropped a folder at her feet. Inside, documents terminating every remaining asset she owned. Ownership transfers, frozen accounts, legal filings, and one final page. Isabella DeSantis, declared financially insolvent, her breath left her body. You can run, he said, you can hide, but no matter where you go, every door will be locked, every favor revoked, every dollar gone. I'm not killing you, Isabella. He turned to leave. I'm making you irrelevant. By the time he returned to the jet, Bianca was waiting. He walked up the steps, blood on his sleeve. She stood. Is it done? He nodded. She walked to him slowly, placed her hand on his chest. Are you done? He stared at her for a long time. Then he wrapped his arms around her and held her so tightly she couldn't breathe. I am now, he whispered into her hair. The next morning, the world woke to a quiet announcement. Isabella DeSantis resigns from all boards, cites undisclosed personal crisis. Bianca sat beside Luca on the balcony of their temporary estate in Florence. She sipped espresso. He kissed her wrist. No more war, no more ghosts, just them, alive, together, and more dangerous than ever. Chapter 20. A New Vow. They could have done it anywhere. Luca owned properties in half the romantic capitals of the world, Venice, Paris, Prague. Any one of them could have hosted the kind of second wedding that would make tabloids cry from envy. But Bianca didn't want a palace. She wanted a garden, so they chose Florence, a 200-year-old estate tucked into the hills where olive trees swayed with secrets and wisteria tangled over sun-bleached walls, a place far from flashing cameras and poisoned deals, a place untouched by ambition or war, a place where she could marry him again, on her terms. The night before, they slept in separate wings, not out of superstition, but because Bianca needed space to feel everything, to grieve what they'd survived, to honor who she was before him, and who she'd become because of him. She walked barefoot through the villa's gardens at dawn, watching dew gather on white roses and lemon trees sway like lovers. Her gown trailed behind her, champagne satin, open back, delicately boned with old-world elegance. No veil, no gloves. She wasn't here to be given to anyone. She was here to choose. Luca waited beneath an arch of olive branches, dressed in a tailored black suit, no tie, hands folded behind him. He didn't look like a billionaire, or a don, or a man who once made rivals bleed for sport. He looked like hers. His eyes never left her as she approached. Every step she took was slow, deliberate, sacred. There were no chairs, no guests, just them, and the quiet kind of sky that only blooms over people who've earned peace. She stopped in front of him. Neither of them smiled. They didn't need to. The air between them was reverent. Bianca reached out, took both of his hands, and began. I used to think love was something you earned, she said softly, something you had to prove yourself worthy of, something other people got to define for you. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. But then I met you, and it was nothing like I expected. It was brutal, beautiful, terrifying. It broke me open. She smiled then, small but radiant, and I'm so glad it did because now I see everything clearly. She squeezed his fingers. I see a man who burned the world down to keep me safe, who built me an empire not just of power but of trust, a man who never asked me to be less, only more, even when I didn't believe I could be. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't vow to obey, or to submit, or to pretend. I vow to fight beside you, to protect your heart like you protect mine, and to love you, wildly, fiercely, without apology, for every single lifetime I'm given. Luca blinked once, twice, then he swallowed, and spoke. I never believed in fate, he said, or redemption, or second chances. His voice was rough. But then you walked into my life, and suddenly everything I'd built meant nothing if I didn't have you. He stepped closer. I've lied, I've fought, I've done things that would make angels turn away. But you, he paused, breathing deeply, you never did. You looked at me like I was something worth saving, and because of you, I am. A tear fell down her cheek. He caught it with his thumb. I vowed to never make you small, to never silence your fire, to stand in front of every threat and behind every triumph. I vowed to be your shield, your sword, your sin, and your sanctuary, every day, every breath, until this life is over. A beat passed. Then he added quietly, and after. They didn't need an officiant. Bianca slid the ring onto his finger. He slid hers onto hers. Then he kissed her, slow, deep. Like this wasn't a ceremony. It was a claim. That night they danced under string lights and stars. No DJ, just an old record player spinning Italian jazz. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Because the war was over. Because the empire still stood. Because she was his. And he would never let her go. Later in their suite, Luca stripped her from the gown slowly, reverently. Piece by piece, button by button. His hands never rushed. His mouth didn't devour. He worshipped. Every scar, every sigh, every part of her that had ever been broken. He kissed her collarbone like it was a relic, her hip like it was scripture, her mouth like it was his only language, and when he finally slid inside her, he held her gaze and whispered, "You're home." And she was. Chapter 21. One Last Obstacle. The morning after the vow renewal, the world finally caught its breath. And so did Bianca. Wrapped in nothing but silk sheets and Luca's arm draped across her waist, she lay in bed, watching the way the Tuscan sunrise kissed the edges of his face. His lashes flickered in sleep, his breathing slow, steady. Peace looked good on him, but it never lasted long. By noon, Luca's satellite phone buzzed. Twice. Then a third time. He rolled out of bed, still bare, and disappeared into the study without a word. Bianca stayed in bed for 5 minutes. Then she followed. She found him standing in front of a projection screen, brows furrowed, one hand gripping the edge of the desk. "What is it?" she asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then he clicked a button. An image flashed onto the screen. Grainy, aerial view. A man, dressed in black, entering a restricted Maddox Holdings storage facility in Copenhagen. Another click, a still from security footage inside, a laptop being accessed, files copied, hard drives removed. Bianca's heart thudded. "That's one of your secure vaults, one of my oldest," Luca said. "Backups from the early empire, names, transactions, skeletons." "And that man? Used to work for me." Bianca's eyes narrowed. "Used to? He was paid to disappear after a leak investigation 5 years ago. I assumed he was gone, but someone just reactivated him." Her stomach twisted. "Who?" Luca exhaled. "That's the problem. We don't know." Later that day, the call came. Encrypted. Anonymous. A male voice. "Mr. Maddox," it said, "it's time we finish what your father started." Bianca stepped into the room just as the call ended. Luca's face had gone pale beneath the surface rage. "Who was that?" He stared ahead, jaw tight. "Someone who should have stayed dead." Bianca crossed her arms. "Talk to me." He turned slowly and dropped the bomb. "My father had a second heir." Bianca blinked. "What?" Luca sat down. For once, the great Maddox looked tired. "He had a son with another woman. Before me, before the money, before the control. Why haven't I heard this before? Because we thought he was gone, off-grid. No interest in the family, no claim to the empire." Bianca narrowed her eyes. "And now? Now, he wants everything." Over the next 2 days, files poured in. The man's name was Silas Maddox, early 40s, military background. Discharged under mysterious circumstances. Then radio silence, no digital trail, no tax filings, no social presence. Ghost. Until now. He'd surfaced in Copenhagen, used Luca's own biometric skeleton keys to enter the vault, and exfiltrated data buried deeper than most governments could reach. And he didn't just steal it, he weaponized it. The leaks began on the third day. Whispers of offshore arms contracts Luca had brokered during the company's founding years, legal but morally gray. Anonymous claims that Bianca's Luna Fund was laundering money for political leverage, false, but insidious. Then, photos. Old ones. Bianca, Luca, kisses, meetings, whispered moments, spun into a narrative that painted her as a seductress who rose to power on the back of a man she manipulated into marriage. "This is surgical," Luca said, eyes scanning the files. "He knows exactly where to hit." Bianca stood behind him, arms crossed, fury tightening every muscle. "Then let's hit back." But it wasn't that simple. Silas had more than files. He had timing. He released a memo, an internal Maddox Holdings document, proposing a controversial acquisition deal. The deal had since been scrapped. But Silas reframed it as Luca's secret plan to monopolize pharmaceutical distribution in Eastern Europe. The media pounced. Senators called for investigations. The stock dipped. Board members called for an emergency vote. Bianca saw it for what it was, a setup. Silas didn't want to destroy Luca from the outside. He wanted to fracture him from the inside. That night, Bianca walked into the bedroom to find Luca shirtless, hunched over the edge of the bed, head in his hands. She crossed to him silently, knelt in front of him, placed her hands on his thighs. He looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. "I should have seen it coming," he whispered. "You couldn't. I should have known the past never stays buried." Bianca's grip tightened. "Then let's exhume it, piece by piece." He looked at her, searching. "Do you still believe in me?" She didn't hesitate. "I am you." And that, more than any press statement, more than any financial retaliation, was what he needed to hear. The next morning, Bianca made the first move. A video. No PR team, no edits, just her. At a podium, alone. "I've spent years watching men try to tear down what my husband built, what we built. I've been called a liar, a climber, a whore. But this is different." She paused. "Because now I know who I'm fighting." She looked into the camera. "Silas Maddox, you want to come for us? Then do it in the open. Show your face. Stop hiding behind shadows and secrets." Her voice lowered. "And bring everything you've got." The video racked up 10 million views in under 6 hours. Silas didn't respond, not publicly, but someone delivered a package to Maddox Tower that evening. Inside, a blood-stained tie and a single word written on a piece of paper. Next. Chapter 22. The Face Behind the Threat. The package changed everything. Luca stood in the center of his private security war room, the blood-stained tie laid out like evidence. That single word, next, burned into the mind of every operative in the room. All feeds were active, all files open. The Maddox Collective was in a full-scale lockdown, but even with top-level clearances, Silas Maddox remained elusive. Until now, it was Bianca who figured it out. She was reviewing old Maddox Holdings contracts, tracing names, documents, properties long since sold, trying to find any possible hand Silas had in the company's early history. Then she saw it, a property in Bucharest, sold 15 years ago. But the signature on the seller's line wasn't her father-in-law's, it was S. Maddox, a name no one in the company's legal team had ever questioned. She called Luca into the office. "This signature," she said, pointing to the screen. "Look familiar?" Luca stared at it. His body went still. He nodded once. "That's my mother's handwriting." Silas had used her name, her signature, to launder the deal. And from there, they followed the trail. 8 properties across 5 countries, each one scrubbed, sold, vanished, until one file, listed under a Hungarian shell company, tied them all together. It was a warehouse in the mountains of northern Italy. Remote, private, registered under Faro and Maddox Logistics. Luca didn't wait. The flight was quiet, private, just him, Bianca, and 2 of his most lethal guards. She watched him in the dim cabin light, jaw tight, suit crisp, but something beneath the surface, cracking. "This isn't just about business," she said. He didn't look at her. "No," he murmured, "it's about blood." Bianca slid her hand over his. "Then let's end it." The warehouse looked abandoned, steel rusted, windows blacked out, silent except for the wind through the cypress trees. But the inside? Buzzing, motion sensors, infrared lasers, and a room full of computers running off a network Luca's team didn't even know existed. And in the center of it all, his half-brother. Silas Maddox, older than Luca by a decade, taller, broader, hair streaked with silver, but eyes the exact same shade of gold. He didn't look surprised when they entered. He looked amused. "Well," he said, spreading his arms, "isn't this poetic?" Luca stepped forward. "You've been busy." Silas chuckled. "You always were the favorite. I had to make up for lost time." Bianca stayed behind Luca, but her voice was steady. "You didn't come for the company. You came for him." Silas met her eyes. "Smart girl." Luca's jaw clenched. "You faked your death." "I staged it," Silas corrected. "Our father left me with nothing but a birth certificate and resentment. You got everything. The money, the name, the empire. Damblé. I got tossed into a military camp in Romania and trained like a dog." "You could have come forward? And begged for scraps?" Silas's voice rose. "I built my empire in shadows. I made myself powerful without his name. But you," he stepped closer, "you built yours on love. That's your weakness." He looked at Bianca. "She made you soft." Luca didn't flinch. Soft enough to burn the world for her. Silas's smirk faded. "You think this ends with me walking away?" Luca's voice dropped. "No." Then he lunged. The fight wasn't clean. It wasn't choreographed. It was brutal. Two men bred for dominance, one with vengeance in his blood, one with Bianca in his heart. Silas fought like a brawler, heavy hits, no hesitation. Luca fought like a tactician, precise, lethal, controlled. Bianca didn't scream, she didn't beg, she waited, until Silas made a mistake. He grabbed a blade from the table and lunged. Luca ducked. Bianca grabbed the nearest metal rod and slammed it across Silas's knee. He screamed. Luca punched him square in the jaw. He dropped, hard. Silas lay on the concrete, bleeding. Luca stood over him, chest heaving. "I should end this," he said. Silas laughed, spitting blood. "But you won't. You've changed." Luca turned to Bianca. Her eyes were calm, but cold. "No," she said. "We don't kill him. We make sure he never breathes free air again." She tossed Luca her phone. "Live stream active. To every news outlet on the planet. Silas's crimes. Every shell company, every laundering file, every hack already uploaded. Evidence was done. This wasn't vengeance. This was justice." Interpol picked him up 3 hours later. The charges? Global financial terrorism, identity fraud, blackmail, attempted assassination. He'd spend the rest of his life locked away, watching the empire he tried to destroy thrive. Back in Florence, Bianca and Luca returned to the villa. The same silk sheets, the same morning sun, but they were different. Harder, freer, untouchable. "I love you," Luca whispered against her skin. "I know," Bianca murmured. "Now stop talking." And he did. Chapter 23. The Crown Reforged. 3 weeks passed. No headlines, no leaks, no threats. Silas Maddox had disappeared into an underground prison buried beneath layers of international red tape. His name was never formally tried in court. Luca ensured the evidence was handled privately through strategic diplomacy and dark favors. The public only knew one thing: Maddox Holdings had survived the blood war. And the woman at the center of it all was now its queen. Bianca didn't return to the same office she'd left. The Luna Fund headquarters had tripled in size, expanded into Zurich and New York, and was now being scouted as a global investment partner for several philanthropic governments. But it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about legacy. "I want to launch Luna International," she told Luca one night as they sat on their terrace overlooking the city lights of Florence. "A network of mentorships, business accelerators, grants for women coming out of violence, war, even prison." Luca blinked. "You want to build an army?" "No," she said softly. "I want to build a revolution." He stared at her, then leaned in. "Then I'll fund it." A month later, the Crown Gala launched in Milan, Bianca's first official public appearance since the Silas takedown. It was less of a party and more of a coronation. Biotech heiresses, global ministers, digital billionaires, and power players from 4 continents lined up to speak with her. And while cameras flooded her every move, it wasn't the gown that captured the world's attention. It was her entrance, alone. No guards, no Luca, just Bianca Maddox. Unflinching, unapologetic, unstoppable. She stood on the main stage, flanked by giant screens showing the Luna Fund's latest global impact, and she gave a speech no one would forget. "I was never handed this crown. I wasn't born into power. I fell into it, fought through it, nearly died beneath it, and still, I rose. They tried to break me. They tried to bury me. They tried to make me a footnote in a man's empire. But what they forgot was that a woman doesn't need to wear a crown to own a kingdom. She builds one." The crowd exploded. The next day, Vogue called her the most dangerous woman in luxury. Luca called her his reason for every war he'd ever waged. Later that night, they returned to the villa. He didn't let her change, didn't let her speak, just pulled her into the bedroom, pressed her against the door, and whispered against her lips, "You looked like you were born to rule." She smiled against his mouth. "I was." They made love like they hadn't just survived an empire's collapse, like they hadn't just destroyed enemies, reshaped fortunes, or buried their pasts. They made love like it was the first time, raw, relentless, reverent. The next morning, Luca presented her with a gift. It wasn't jewelry, it wasn't a key, it was a document. She scanned it, breath-catching. "Is this?" He nodded. 51% of everything. Her mouth parted. "You're giving me control?" "I'm giving you what you've already earned." She looked up at him, eyes blazing, voice soft. "I don't want to take it from you." "You're not taking it," he whispered. "You're wearing it." He placed the contract in her hands and kissed her like she was his beginning and his end. From that day forward, Maddox Holdings became the Maddox Collective, Luca as CEO, Bianca as chairwoman and global strategy architect. Power didn't shift, it merged. 2 wolves, 1 empire. No rivals, but somewhere, far away, across oceans and governments, a single envelope slid across a table, sealed in wax, unmarked, hand-delivered. Inside, a photo of Bianca, standing at the podium in Milan, smiling, alive, victorious, and beneath it, 2 words, "She's next." Chapter 24. The Unknown King. The envelope had no fingerprint trace, no return address, no camera feed showing who left it. It was delivered through a secure courier to a contact in Rome, one of Luca's oldest intelligence allies. When the man opened it and saw Bianca's photo, he sent it straight to Luca with a 2-word message. "We have company." Luca didn't show Bianca the envelope right away. He studied it first, memorized the folds, the wax stamp, an unfamiliar symbol carved into it, 2 crossed daggers over a crown. Not DeSantis, not Drake, not Silas. This was something else, something older. He ran it through every database he had access to and still came up empty. That scared him more than anything else ever had. Bianca knew something was wrong the moment she stepped into the study and saw Luca standing by the window, phone in one hand, his other curled into a fist. He was always composed. But now, he looked like a predator who smelled war. "Tell me," she said. He didn't turn, just lifted the envelope and passed it to her. She read it, saw the photo, the words, and felt a shiver slide down her spine. "She's next." Her voice was ice. "Isabella?" "No, she's still in isolation, and Silas is buried too deep." "Then who?" Luca finally turned to face her. "I don't know." The next day, Maddox Tower locked down its international intel divisions. Every operative, every contact, activated. Luca turned the world upside down to find who sent that photo. 3 names surfaced. One matched the wax seal. Valerio Nero, a name not spoken in civilized boardrooms, because Valerio wasn't a businessman. He was a collector of secrets, power, people. He didn't build empires, he dismantled them. And now he was watching Bianca. "He runs a sovereign syndicate out of Monaco," Luca explained the next evening as they reviewed files in the private server room. "He buys shares of failing dynasties, blackmails CEOs, owns whole governments through silent power." Bianca's brow furrowed. "Why me?" "Because you're not failing," Luca said. "You're rising, and he doesn't like what he can't control." Bianca crossed her arms. "Then we burn his offer before he even makes it." But Luca shook his head. "That's not how Valerio plays. He doesn't ask. He doesn't negotiate. He seduces." Her lips parted. "He wants to recruit me." Luca's eyes went dark. "No, he wants to own you." The first offer came as a letter, handwritten in calligraphy, delivered by a private sommelier during a Luna Fund tasting event in Marseille. It said nothing except, "Bianca Maddox, I would like to see you shine. Come to Monte Carlo. My invitation is your protection. V." She crushed it in her hand. Luca scanned the server feed. "He's tracking your movements." Bianca's jaw locked. "Then it's time we make him watch." 3 days later, they arrived in Monaco. No bodyguards, no convoy, just the Maddoxes, unafraid. The Valerio compound was carved into the cliffs above the harbor, sleek, steel, and silence. A palace of glass, no cameras, just retina scans and whispers. A man greeted them at the door, and Bianca immediately understood the danger. Valerio Nero was beautiful, not the way Luca was, dangerous and refined. No, Valerio was serpentine, smooth skin, cold smile, long fingers, and a voice like crushed velvet. He kissed Bianca's hand. and ignored Luca entirely. "I've waited a long time to meet you," he said. Bianca didn't smile. "I don't do business with phantoms." "Good," Valerio said, guiding them into the compound, "because I'm very much real." Dinner was served beneath a chandelier made of crushed diamonds, caviar, aged wine, meat flown in from Tokyo, but the real game was the conversation. Valerio spoke in riddles. Praises wrapped in veiled threats, talk of legacy, of Bianca's potential, of what she could be without the weight of love. "You've built an empire beside your husband," he said, sipping red wine. "But what if you led one alone?" Luca's fork stopped midair. Bianca didn't blink. "I would burn alone," she said calmly, "and I don't feel like dying today." Valerio smiled. "Pity. I had hoped you'd see the beauty and power for its own sake." She leaned forward. "I don't need you to see me shine, Valerio. I'm already blinding." They left that night. No deal, no promise, but not without consequence. Because the next morning, the Luna Fund's Zurich server was hacked, Bianca's financials temporarily frozen, and a photo of Valerio's diamond chandelier was posted anonymously with a caption, "She dines with kings, she forgets who crowns them." Back in Florence, Bianca sat on the balcony watching the city wake. Luca stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "He's not going away," Luca murmured. "I don't want him to." Luca's brow lifted. She turned in his arms, fire in her eyes. "I want to crush him." Luca smiled, slow and dark. "Then we'll do it together." She rested her head against his chest and whispered, "Let's start a new war." Chapter 25, The King Who Dared Bianca, never flinched from fire. So when Valerio Nero made his second move, crashing the Luna Fund's Zurich servers and leaking private investment blueprints to a competitor, she didn't panic. She responded by turning her own fundraiser into a trap. The gala was held at the Villa Medici, high above Rome under a full moon and a canopy of black silk. On paper, it was a celebration, 1-year anniversary of the Luna Fund's international launch. In reality, it was war. Every table was handpicked, every invitee vetted. Bianca wore red, deep royal crimson, and entered alone, not beside Luca, not backed by guards, because this was personal. Valerio showed up just before midnight. He moved through the ballroom like a whisper, his suit obsidian, his smile sharper than glass. Every woman looked, every man watched. But only one person saw the danger behind his charm, Bianca. She met him near the edge of the marble terrace, wine in hand, heels planted, voice like steel. "I knew you'd come," she said. Valerio's grin was effortless. "You're very good at luring monsters, Bianca." "I don't lure," she replied. "I hunt." He stepped closer. "Then you'll appreciate what I brought you." He handed her a small black box. Inside, a USB drive. "Everything I have on the DeSantis family," he said softly. "Assets. Contacts. Their final offshore reserves." Bianca's brow arched. "You're giving me a gift? A token," he replied. "Of respect and a warning." He stepped even closer. "There's no crown without blood, Bianca, and you've worn yours too clean." She smiled and slapped him, hard. Gasps rippled from the crowd inside. Valerio's cheek turned pink. His expression didn't shift. "You don't get to threaten me," she said, her voice quiet. "Not in my city, not on my stage, and not after what you did to my fund." Valerio tilted his head. "You think this is over?" "No," she whispered. "I think you are." Security moved before he could speak again. Not hers. Interpol. 4 agents. Suited. Armed. Waiting. Valerio didn't resist. He just smirked. Bianca stepped toward him, face inches from his. "I invited you because I wanted you to see how this ends. You walk in like a king and leave in chains." His smile faltered, just for a breath. "How long have you been planning this?" he murmured. Bianca didn't blink. "Since the moment you said my name." Luca appeared from the shadows as Valerio was escorted out. Not a hair out of place. Dark tie, darker smile. "You really slapped him?" "Bare-handed." "God, I love you." She leaned into him. "I love you more." The next morning, every news outlet ran the same headline: Bianca Maddox traps Monaco kingpin in surprise sting operation. The footage went viral. The slap, the arrest. The sheer audacity of her standing alone against a man known for collapsing monarchs. And for the first time in history, the Maddox name became more feared than admired. Bianca was no longer just the woman behind the empire. She was the empire. Later that week, she stood at the top of Maddox Tower, staring out over Manhattan as her assistant handed her the final file. "What's this?" she asked. "A request for private counsel from inside Valerio's camp." Bianca's brows lifted. "They want to switch sides?" They want to survive. Bianca turned to Luca, who stood at her side with a drink in one hand and the whole world at his feet. "What do you think?" she asked. He smiled. "Let them beg." And as she sat down at the head of the table, her table, no longer borrowed, no longer shared, Bianca Maddox didn't feel like a queen. She felt like a storm. And there was no one left who didn't know her name. Epilogue, The Last Empire. 6 months later. Bianca Maddox stood at the edge of a black sand beach in Santorini, the Aegean wind tugging at her silk wrap as she watched the waves roll against the shore. Behind her, the villa glowed with low lights and quiet laughter. Inside, the most powerful men and women in the world toasted glasses under her roof, wearing her diamonds, investing in her future, building their fortunes off the empire she'd turned into legend. She'd won, but she didn't feel like she'd conquered the world. She felt like she'd survived it. Luca stepped onto the sand barefoot, his dress shirt half unbuttoned, a glass of dark wine in one hand. "She's asleep," he murmured. Bianca turned, their daughter, 4 months old. Half chaos, half lullaby, all love. Bianca smiled. "She has your scowl already. And your appetite." He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, rested his chin on her shoulder. They stood in silence for a moment. Then he whispered, "Do you miss it?" Bianca closed her eyes. The wars, the boardrooms, the fire. "No," she said quietly, "because I never left it." She turned in his arms, lifted his hand to her lips. "It's all still mine. I just don't have to fight for it anymore." Inside, the world would keep spinning. The fund would keep growing. The empire would keep expanding. But outside, under the stars, with Luca's lips pressed to her temple and his daughter's heartbeat still echoing in her skin, Bianca Maddox didn't need headlines. She had legacy, and no one could take that crown away.